All right, the divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them, and it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and the principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to that state of mind that their forefathers, divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine right as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights, unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state governments and not under a granted privilege has been existing conditions for many generations. You who doubt whether I, prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those who know law in the city hall and amongst the city officials in your government and ask them under intelligent tone, and they will give you a render, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone, and without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of government. I am depending on your support. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold of government again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people. I love my people and desire their unity and mind back to their own national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If the Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In other governments, when a man is born, in other governments, when a man is born and raised there, they ask for his national descent name, and if fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issues and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word color deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, or dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name for their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and they and their mothers, your days will be lengthened upon the earth. These names have never been recognized by any true these names have never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and the South in unit, placing the Southerners who were at the time without power with the constitutional body, without power of the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statement. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized, prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come, because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do hereby believe that this administration of the government being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, does that right? Class of citizens, I, prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but always harmed them. So I, the prophet, and hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them so socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their environment, in which they themselves try to force upon an uncivilized world. They will not refrain from their simple ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses. But I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I hereby calling all true American citizens for more support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet.
Brother Rocky, peace and love, man.
Peace and love, Mafi. Peace and love, everyone. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, peace and love.
Peace, peace.
So to add on to what the brother Shalom was saying earlier, as far as the great work that Noble Jew Ali did. Here's more stuff for our tool belt. Once again, to talk to the common man and woman that will have questions regarding Noble Jew Ali, for example. All right, so this is Moorish Paradigm, Book 13, just as a reference, if anybody wanted to get this whole book in its entirety. We, descendants of the lords of planet Earth, had descended into gross materialism and carnal gratification. Because of this, we began to lose the glow of our once noble nature, and our lower self got the upper hand. This ultimately led to our decline and defeat at the hands of the Roman Catholic Church in 1492. Although we have had some shining moments since 1492, we have generally fallen as a race. Not so much because of our Father God Allah has punished us, but because we reaped what our own hands had sown. Thus, certain prophecies in the possession of the Moors began to take on a greater significance and importance. Below is an example of one of these prophecies that existed among the Moors around the time when we were forced to become Christians, known as Moriscos. So whoever doesn't know that term, Morisco, when parts of our empire was falling, our people were either exiled or stayed and was forced to adopt Roman culture in public. But they may still practice the original traditions in the privacy of their home. These people were referred to as Moriscos, whoever didn't know that. It was said that eventually our situation would get so bad that even the angels would become vexed. I'm about to read a passage from a book called Islam in the West, Moriscos by Anwar G. Shaheen, page 27. A third prophecy is attributed to Muhammad himself and may have formed the basis for other prophecies. It is related that Muhammad was asked about the end of the world and what would happen thereafter to his community. Muhammad replied that the world will come to an end when the most perverse and worst people will appear at a time when a part of his community will still be in an island situated in the extreme west, which is called Andalusia. I want to highlight that too before I continue to read. When we're talking extreme west, the word or the expression Maghreb al-Aqsa, which would be, Morocco, the extreme west. So in this context of what I'm reading, extreme west is referred to as Al-Andalusia. When you start looking at the history of, say, like Florida, or they call the land of flowers, they'll call that Andalusia. There's a lot of Andalusias. So when we start talking about ancient world, even a lot of stuff in the Bible, that they'll make it seem like it's over there in Africa, it's really over here. I just wanted to highlight that. I wanted to highlight that before I continue to read. In the extreme west, which is called Al-Andalusia. Oh, and before I forget, the reason I'm highlighting that, because before it was called Spain, Al-Andalus. Most people think Al-Andalus is Spain, as over there, which is true as well. So I'm trying to get people to think about how it was an empire. Maps today don't give justice to the boundaries of certain nation states that Moors had. The people of his community will be the last of his inhabitants. All the calamities will befall them because of their neglect of the religious law and their worldliness, neglecting prayers and indulging in luxury. The minors among them do not respect the elderly, nor do the elderly have compassion for their minors. Injustices and false oaths abound among them. Merchants purchase and sell with usury and deceit and covet properties. These and other evil things will become manifest, and God will subject them to people worse than they. They will be tormented. Cruel governors will rule over them. Their property will be confiscated for no reason. They will be captive and subject to killing and conversion, and will worship images and idols. They will be obligated to eat bacon and will endure other oppressions to the point of hopelessness and despair. God will punish their sins, but he will also have pity on them and will forgive them when those evils are eradicated. Right? So we got the opportunity to correct our ways and create a different reality. And before I continue, the brother just read the divine warning. He said he traveled in the South and he's seen it's the conditions of our people, right? So analyze that, do a comparative analysis with this piece right here of a prophecy. And you're saying, okay, the conditions of the people that's not working together, low vibrational activity, don't trust each other, don't know their culture. It's going to be a people that's going to rule over them. This is prophesied in many holy books in different ways, right? They will be captive and subject to killing and conversion and will worship images and idols. They will be obligated to eat bacon and will endure other oppressions that tickled me, man, to the point of hopelessness and despair. God will punish their sins, but he will also have pity on them and forgive them when those evils are eradicated. And when they return to the practice of the religious law, the cruelty imposed will be so intense that the angels will become vexed and will appear before Almighty, calling his attention to their plight. It is then that God the Avenger will send someone to rescue them from their miserable condition. This will take place when the new year falls on a Saturday. God will then send a sign consisting of a cloud of birds, two which will represent angels, Gabriel and Michael. The first cloud of birds will be followed by other birds of the earth to announce the coming of the king of East and West, who will take Al-Andalusia. The conflict between Islam and Christianity will end with the return of the law of the Moors. There will be much clouds in that year, scarcity of water, trees bearing extra fruits, and other signs. So that passage was a passage from Islam and the West, the Moriscos. So we're cross-referencing the divine warning in this piece. The context is Noble Jew Ali. So when we're talking about a messenger, prophet means messenger. You look prophet up, etymology. Prophet just means messenger, a warner of the people to correct their ways. In this passage, what were some of the highlights? People that's going astray from this was called the religious law. Whoever's going astray from the religious law in this body, of this composition, then it's going to be cruel people that are going to be able to rule over those type of people. But it also states that they can correct their ways and basically invoke the divine law of, getting back to the natural order of things, right? Being part of the human family. Getting back to how our ancestors conducted themselves, the illustrious culture, the genius, right? The prophet used the terminology, the genius citizens, right? All right, so I wanted just to do that comparative analysis. Since 1492, we have suffered defeat, chattel slavery, lynchings, killings, poverty, ignorance, and everything degrading and destructive to a people, even to the point of hopelessness and despair. Thus, the next logical question would be, when will the great God Allah send this someone to rescue us from our miserable condition? When will this king of East and West come and bring about a return to the law of the Moors? A prophet from among us. That question was asked in March 1917 in an editorial in the Champion magazine, a so-called Negro publication. The editorial said, quote, The Negro is crying for a Muhammad to come forth and give him the Quran of economic and intellectual welfare. Where is he? So that was a quote, 1917. This was the prayer of our people, and Allah responded by sending us a someone, the king of East and West, a quote unquote, a Muhammad, quote unquote, who would bring us a Quran of economic and intellectual welfare. That one sent to us was none other than Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Whoever doesn't know, that's who that man is right here with the fez on.
It reminded me of that Tupac song, Black Jesus. But like, we need a saint that helped somebody help us carry us through.
Right, right.
I never heard that, but like, yeah. But Noble Jew Ali, but not the Black Jesus. But I yield.
All right, Islam. Right, that's right. I get what you're saying. So Prophet Noble Jew Ali was born Timothy Drew, North Carolina, January 8th, 1886. He can be seen. He was a prophet from among us, homegrown and not a foreigner, speaking a foreign language. Not much is known about the early life prior to the coming, the prophet of Allah. All we have is what has been handed down to us by the Moorish elders. The elders said the prophet founded the temple in Newark, New Jersey in 1913. It was during this time between 1913 and 1916, and just prior, that the prophet was said to have learned Islam and the truth of our Moorish heritage. It was also during this time that he was said to have been put through the test of prophethood and to have received the title Ali. During this time, he was recognized as the prophet and the one representing our people among the nations of the world. In 1916, he founded the Moorish Divine and National Movement. Between 1916 and 1919, he stayed with the original Canaanite temple, but a foreign Islamic teacher came in and began to discredit the prophet as not teaching the true Islam and for not teaching Arabic. This struggle ultimately divided the membership, and the prophet went to New York City to link up with Marcus Garvey's UNIA movement. Marcus Garvey is said to be the John the Baptist, quote unquote, of Prophet Noble Jew Ali. He came to prepare the descendants of Amexem, original name of Africa. See the Quran, chapter 47, for the prophet's coming. Around the circles of the Garvey movement, the prophet was known as the Prince and Professor Drew. So in the Marcus Garvey movement, the people involved in that movement knew Noble Jew Ali as the Prince and Professor Drew, and the Egyptian adept. These were before he came into the Moorish, the full-blown, will ultimately will become the Moorish Divine Movement. That it was a great thing he did, but in the early stages prior to that, he was still known in the Garvey circles as the Prince, the Egyptian adept, Professor Drew. I find that very fascinating. Hebrew movements and other movements among our people influence in the UNIA can be seen in the quotes below. Garvey once said, quote, Muhammad suffered many defeats at certain times, he said, but Muhammad stuck to his faith and ultimately triumphed. And Mohammedism was given to the world. And as Muhammad did in the religious world, so in the political arena, we have had men who have paid the price for leading the people toward the great light of liberty. And that was a quote from Arnold J. Ford's The Universal Ethiopian Hymnal, page 88. Arnold Josiah Ford, the musical director of the UNIA, so that's who Arnold J. Ford. Arnold J. Ford was the musical director for Garvey's organization. That's who that is. Utilized the symbols of Islam in several of his musical compositions for the organization. Allahu Akbar was the title of one of his hymns. Other pieces made similar references. Quote, may our right proclaim, and that the most sacred name, Allah, one God, one aim, one destiny. Note, many people are familiar with the phrase one God, one aim, one destiny, but very few know that it was preceded with may our rights proclaim, in that most sacred name, Allah. Father of all creation, Allah omnipotent, supreme, or every nation, God bless our president. From murderous Cain, whose vengeful mood, a doctrine cursed, prefer to spill or drink his brother's blood when love is in the Allah's word. As leader of the Black Jewish movement in the 1920s, Ford was particularly sensitive to the issue of the signification and alternative religious identities of the UNIA. By 1924, Arnold Ford was the rabbi of the Black Jewish congregation Beth Benal Abraham in Harlem. So y'all might want to take notes on this organization. Black Jewish congregation Beth Benal Abraham in Harlem, 1924. So he broke off from his position with Garvey and created that. Somewhere between 1919 and 1925, Prophet Nobuju Ali returned to the South and to North Carolina, where he was born. It was during this time that Allah spoke to Nobuju Ali and ordained him prophet. Allah instructed him to go west to Chicago, announce his prophethood, and begin his mission. It was also in December of 1925 that the crescent moon and star was seen hanging low in the western skies, heralding the coming of the prophet, the return of the Mahdi, who would establish a new caliphate or divine government here in the West. Whoever's not familiar with a caliphate, it's just a structure of government, structure of Muslim government. And we had positions, of course, sultan, but caliphs, right? And ancient languages is always a masculine and feminine, so Khalifa would be if one of the empresses held that position. But if it was a male, Caliph. And of course, that's where we get California. Just wanted to throw that in there. In fulfillment of the prophecies of Islam. So one of the fulfillments of the prophecies of Islam was the establishment of a caliphate in the West. Thus, it is no coincidence that in 1925, within a year of after the decaying Islamic caliphate in Turkey, now keep this in mind. We're talking about the Turks. We're talking about Moors over there, Istanbul, right? The region where Sultan Muhammad I shut down one of the Constantines, shut down Constantinople, took that over, and now it's Istanbul now. That was under a caliphate under Muhammad. Now, that got declined 1925. Shortly after that, It was the rise of the caliphate in the West. So that's the context of what's being explained right here. So within a year of after the decaying Islamic Caliphate in Turkey was taken down in the East, 1924, Allah ordained a new prophet and thus the beginning of a new caliphate here in the West. The prophecies of the Mahdi. Muhammad al-Qutan al-Abiyah has said the sun will rise from the place of the setting. And of course, the sun sets in the west, right? Abdullah ibn Amir reported, I heard the messenger of Allah say, the first of the signs that will come out will be the rising of the sun in its place of setting, and the coming out of the beast of the people at forenoon, and whichever of these two come to pass before its companion, the other will be near in his footsteps. So these are, like, for example, we're going to see quotes or, great poets and Arabic scholars that make quotes. Thus, as the Muslims in the East are even to this day awaiting the Mahdi, little do they realize that he has already come. He has come from a rejected and despised people who they would never have thought would produce their long-awaited Mahdi. The same way they, the Arabs, were seen when the Prophet Muhammad came from among them. Thus we are now the portion of the Asiatic family from the last prophet has come from. Here's a quote from the Holy Quran, Surah or chapter 70, verse 40 through 41. But no, I swear by the Lord of the religions in the East and the West that we can certainly replace them with those better than them, and we cannot be defeated. And verily, we have raised in every nation a Rasul or messenger, proclaiming, serve Allah, and shun Tagat or false deities, or the cardinal self, or like we read in the Divine Warning, cardinal customs. All messengers will come amongst a people and highlight the fact that you need to correct your ways. Of the people were some whom Allah guided, and some on whom error became inevitably established. So travel through the earth and see what was the end of those who denied the truth. And that was a quote from the Holy Quran, Surah, which is Arabic for chapter or book, chapter 16, verse 36. So you can compare the Holy Quran to the Circle 7 in principle or works or hadiths that Noble Jew Ali has compiled, and you'll see the principle is the same. So when you're saying cardinal customs, stop cardinal customs, you're saying the same thing that the Holy Quran is saying. Shun Tagat, or false deities, idol worship. This is the reason why the Arabs and many of the current Muslims of the East have and will oppose us as we rise. And it is the very prophecies of which they themselves hold in their hands. And to elaborate on what was being said for context purposes too, a lot of quote unquote Middle Easterns, they look at Prophet Muhammad in a different way. And they feel that there should be no prophet after Prophet Muhammad, based on the literary work of the Holy Quran. But technically, in that book, it does not say that. It just says he will be the last seal. Prophet Muhammad will be the seal seal, meaning what is a seal? That's government structure, right? That's political, body politics, governmental organizations have a seal to represent the empire, the kingdom, the nation state, the clan, whatever the case may be. So he represented, for one, that all prophets will have Islamic law as far as culturally and politically. And when we say in Islam, we're talking about the ancient Islam, not how it's promoted today. You know, we're talking about self-mastery. You know, we're talking about peace and how to obtain that on so many different levels. You know, when the man of this matter appears, he will receive harm from people worse than what the prophet has received. And that was a quote from, let me give you an example of who these people are. Think about, who are these people giving these quotes? So, example, this brother, Behar al-Anar, as you can see, he compiled hadiths. He's like scholars of Prophet Muhammad. These are people that like study Prophet Muhammad. And they'll create hadiths about the life and works. And people regarded these people highly. And you can see, especially back in this time, now they'll be able to write in Quranic verses, you know. And if you read a book called The Jews of Muslim Spain, they'll go into depth about how essentially Moors created surahs. Like Moors created holy books for the general population, you know, for character building, especially when, General Tariq, he will come and he shut some stuff down, so we had to restore order. And one of the ways how we would restore order was through holy books too. You know, because some of our people might have had that Roman mind frame, and we would reconquer that area and restore the original traditions. So we had holy books for those people. If that makes sense. So, you know, these were just our brothers that was analyzing not only Prophet Muhammad, they were scholars and they had positions on things. I just want to give a little insight on that. When our Qayyam rises, he will face so much difficulty from the people that even Abnabi during the period of ignorance did not face. When Anabi was appointed, people worship stones and wood. However, when our Qawam arises, people will interpret the ordinance of Allah against his interpretation and will argue with him and dispute by means of the Quran. By Allah, the justice of the Qayyim will enter inside their homes, just as the heat and the cold enter them. So we're going to have people arguing. You're going to have people that see the light. But most importantly, a person will arise amongst the low vibrational people and give signs and symbols with a direction, right? That's the most important bullet point that we're getting out of all these literary works. This opposition was actually fulfilled by a Muslim named Sati Majid, who was so outraged by the Prophet bringing a new Quran. So for context, now we're getting back into what I was reading earlier before all these quotes, to give supporting reference from different literary works, Quran quotes, that a warner of the people will come, he will face opposition, etc. So now we're getting back to in real time what was going on during Prophet Noble Jew Ali's time. All right, so the opposition, that this was opposition that was actually fulfilled by a Muslim named Sati Majid, who was so outraged by the Prophet bringing a new Quran. Speaking of the Circle Seven, he wrote the Prophet demanded. He wrote the Prophet demanding that he change the name and burn the book. He even tried to get the United States government involved, but the government did not get involved and told Sati Majid to go to the men of knowledge and religion to seek redress. He then went to the Muslim scholars in Egypt to get them to pronounce a fatwa against the Prophet Noble Jew Ali, which they did. They also, however, spoke against Sati Majid and his qualifications. So it backfired on him. It was said in the prophecies that the Muslims in the East have that the Mahdi will invite to a new mission or a new movement, a new tradition, a new method. Yet they will rebel against that which they themselves know. I find that fascinating that all this was going on during Noble Jew Ali's tenure. More hadiths. He appears with a new method, new principles, and new judgment. He will be severe with the Arabs. When the Quran emerges, he will come with a new commission, a new book, a new conduct, and a new judgment, which will be strenuous for the Arabs. His work is nothing but to fight, and no one will be spared. He will not be afraid of any blame in the execution of his duty. So this is the context of Noble Jew Ali. He didn't care about the opposition. He created a new book to reach the people where they was at. And it had character building principles. He came with instruction. He came with nationality, reminding us that we had it. And the structure, the organization of it. All the branch temples operating as trusts, organizations, conveying property, farming. This is everything he brought, which is in line with these hadiths. This specific one from Imam Jafar. Remember, these are quote unquote Moorish saints. Well, you'll see it if you read the. I'm saying that because I read the book Jews and Muslims Spain, and I know who these people are considered. They're Moorish saints. That's what they'll be called. People in high regard. And people came to them to even interpret the Quran. Like, that's another aspect of it. But my point is, it's a person that will come with a new book, promotion of, switch your conduct up. And it's going to be strenuous for the Arabs, right? So, which means, so you're looking at it today, most, like I say, the pale Arab, Middle Eastern, they're looking at Prophet Muhammad from a certain lens. And they're going to look at this like, oh, no, that's not. You know what I mean? So, Noble Jew Ali went through that in his time, but he still was prosperous and the truth prevailed. He did great work in his time. I think I read enough quotes. I think y'all get the point. So let me go back to the main situation. Truly blessed are we, the strangers. There is no one else who fulfills all these prophecies other than Noble Jew Ali. The prophet did bring us a Quran, as our people requested in the magazine article. The Negro is crying, quote, the Negro is crying for Muhammad to come forth and give him the Quran of economic and intellectual welfare. Where is he, right? He fulfilled the Islamic prophecies concerning the Mahdi, as seen in the above quotes. He even fulfilled the Christian prophecies found in the book of Revelations. Notice the 7th seal on the Quran. Whoever doesn't, I don't know if everybody's seen the front of the circle 7 with the original print, but that circle 7 is in the front.
I got a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I used to follow the Nation of Islam for a few years. It's coming to my spirit like maybe the Prophet taught Elijah Muhammad everything he knew, and he went with that and ran with it, man. Like it's kind of the same principles. You know what I'm saying? Like they changed their names, they follow their nationality in the Nation of Islam and everything. And I think he got that knowledge from Noble Drew Ali. I don't think he got that from Father Muhammad. I think it came from Noble Drew Ali, peace be upon him, because there's no other, how can I say, no other evidence of anyone else bringing the true message to the true people of the Most High. You feel what I'm saying? We got evidence of Noble Drew Ali. There's no evidence of Master Farad Muhammad, except they saying that he gave Elijah Muhammad, aka Elijah Poole, his knowledge. But I'm thinking he ran with Noble Drew Ali back in the day, and he took it and ran with it. I mean, I just wanted to say that.
Elijah Poole, what? You didn't finish. What was it? Elijah Poole Bay?
Oh snap! I didn't know that. When I did my research on him, I didn't know that he put Bay on his name. I knew his name was Elijah Poole though.
Oh, he dropped it. He dropped it. But before he dropped it, he was a member of the Moorish Science Temple.
Ooh. Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all I want. I'm sorry to cut you off. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
And also the other brother you mentioned, he was a sheik at the Detroit Temple. They call him Master Farad Muhammad in the Nation.
They call him the Great Mahdi. That's who they, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you
okay.
Your intuition don't
Word. Okay.
Okay, so he fulfilled the Islamic prophecies concerning the Mahdi, as in the above quotes. He even fulfilled the Christian prophecies found in the book of Revelations. Notice the 7th seal on the Quran. So I showed you the 7th seal on the Quran just now. So chapter 5, verse 1. And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who was worthy to open the book and to loosen the seals thereof. It's a question. And no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. And I wept much, because no man was found worthy to open and to read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders said unto me, Weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof. So that was the book of Revelation. Now that we have a little background on the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and his rise to prophethood, let us now look at what exactly did he do to raise and save us as a nation. A divine and national movement for the uplifting of a nation. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said to the Moors, I brought you everything it takes to save a nation. Now take it and save yourselves. And that was a quote from the prophecies and oral statements of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. In Arabic, those oral statements are called hadiths. And hadiths are given, the context, like I say, back in the 1000s, was Moorish saints or Moorish nobles. So Noble Drew Ali was on the same footing. And he would give hadiths or prophecies and oral statements. What was it that Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought to save us as a nation? When he made this statement, it was said that he was holding up the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America and the questionnaire containing the 1928 Charter and laws of the Moorish Science Temple. Oh, so this is what I just showed you, actually. Another visual of the seal. Keep in mind the gates, the openings. Keep in mind spring, summer, autumn, winter. Cardinal signs. Beginning of a new season. Each gate. Equinox, solstice. 12 signs. The cross. The earth glyph. If I drew a line like this. But displaying it like this displays mastery of all that. When the cross is there, you got 4 pie slices. Each pie slice has 3 signs in it. 3 plus 4 give you 7. What was the purpose of this book? By the guiding of his father God Allah, the great God of the universe. The universe is dealing with cosmology, astrology. To redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity. You better get that chart out to know your impulses and know how low you can go so you can make corrections on your temperament, character, impulses. And like I say, who to put around yourself intentionally to bring the best version of yourself out. This is all more science. To redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his father God Allah. This is the holy book Noble Jew Ali brought under his tenure as prophet, which is a sign of a prophet, that he will bring a holy book with instructions on how to get back right. Our authority, once again, the document that was filed. We went over this already. But not only did he state who his successors would be immediately ill, he also stated Great Quran of Muhammad, propagate the faith, extend the learning and truth about the great Prophet Ali in America, appoint missionaries, ambassadors for the nation. Keep this thing going, right? Like all other nations do. And there was also a civic organization that adopted a corporate name, the Moorish Science Temple of America, but it was still a civic organization. He just adopted it for the state of Illinois, Cook County. Oh, Brother Shalom, I see you finna say something before I go into this next measure. Did you have something?
No, I was just looking at your content so I could take notes and everything. That's why I switched the screen over. Nah, I'm good.
Did anybody else have any thoughts before I go into this measure? Because this just jog my mind and to go somewhere else with this. So he filed this in the state of Illinois, Cook County, and I went over this at least twice in the last year or so, I think. But the reason he filed it in the Illinois, state of Illinois, Cook County Corporation, Religious Affidavit of Organization. So let's go to the Illinois General Assembly. That's cool. All right. So this is why he filed it. He filed that document there. Under the Religious Corporation Act, right? You see, he filed an affidavit for a religious corporation, right, under the Illinois. So any church, congregation, or society formed for the purpose of religious worship may become incorporated in the manner following: by electing or appointing according to its usages and customs, according to the usages and customs of the nationality of people. At any meeting held for that purpose, 2 or more of its members, trustees, so that talking about trust law, talking about a trustee means a grantor is a beneficiary. He's as an elected official in a group context as far as trust organization. Trustees, wardens, and vestrymen or other officers whose powers and duties are similar to those of trustees, as shall be agreeable to the usages and customs. So the jurisdiction and the power comes from the fact of a culture or customs that those members of that society, congregation, church, we're going society in our case, nation state clan, we have bylaws, but they didn't come from the Secretary of State. It came from internally of the people involved in the organization. So the power is with the people. This is why he filed that there, because the Secretary of State didn't have jurisdiction over the Moorish Science Temple or the Moorish Holy Temple of Science or any Moorish organization, period, actually. But in this time, we're just focusing on the lens of what Noble Drew Ali did and why he did it. And may adopt a corporate name. So look, that's why he adopted the corporate name, Moorish Science Temple of America. And upon the filing of the affidavit, it shall be and remain a body politic and corporate. So we already know a body politic is a nation state. You already know that. Whoever doesn't know that, just let me know so we can go into what a body politic is. But I'm pretty sure everybody knows what body politic is. That's a nation state, same nationality of people, organized amongst themselves. They may adopt a corporate name, but it doesn't change the fact that they're still a body politic. So it's still a civics organization. So let's go back to the document. Religious Affidavit of Organization, Cook County, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, adopting Moorish Science Temple of America adopted its corporate name. But this is actually, this Moorish paradigm, to be all honestly, is the wrong document. It's not the original document. And I'm glad I'm reading this one, because I'm gonna bring the original up right now, just so we can see how after Noble Drew Ali declined, how documents were tampered with because it was infiltrated by COINTELPRO. So let's analyze this document. I'm gonna go to the original. Allah's the best of planners. So look, and you're gonna see why this document don't make sense. All right. So the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Moorish Science Temple of America adopts its corporate name the following: the Moorish Science Temple of America. If it's already the Moorish Science Temple of America, why would it adopt the same name? Again, makes no sense. So let's go to the original document. This is the original document. And the said Moorish Holy Temple of Science adopts corporate name Moorish Science Temple of America. That makes more sense, right? Because you were not going to adopt the same name you already had. So, and now I didn't even think I was going to catch that right now, but so now that y'all see that, beware. All right, so let's see. Does that make sense? That make sense to everybody?
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
I just caught that on the fly right now. Let me see where was I at. But they tamper with the documents.
All praises due to the Most High that you found that. You heard?
Yeah, Islam. But so this is an example of the schism, after, Nobuju Ali's basically assassination.
That's honest to your studies too. Not to cut you off, but if you're not studied up, you really wouldn't peep. Like, oh wait, that conflicts what I've been.
Word.
You know
That's
I mean?
what I'm scared of. Word.
It was like that's it steady and just like second nature. Like, wait, because you're not looking for that to be wrong. You know what I mean? You're reading the love, truth, peace, freedom. You're teaching, so you're not like teaching BS, but your mind's like, wait, hold up.
Yeah. Crazy.
Word.
What's that little pig running across the floor? He's like, oh,
Yeah.
he's like, oh no, nuts. But honestly, it's steady. Oh, for sure.
No, it's live. It's live. All right, so now I can go back to this document. Now it makes sense, right? So it's still a body politic. It just adopted a corporate name. All right, so the chairman or secretary of such meeting shall, soon as may be after such meeting, may make and file in the office of the recorder of the county in which such congregation, church, or society is organized, which shall be recorded in affidavit, right? Affidavit form, the following. I do solemnly affirm that a meeting of the members, insert here the name of the society as known before, incorporated, the name of the county, state of Illinois, the date, trustees, vestments, officers, shall choose to adopt, etc. Right? So going back to the document, we're gonna see that people were elected. Oh, here we go. You're gonna see people were elected. Oh, you know what? Oh yeah. Okay, that part is still on point. All right. So you got Amelie L in this case, Small Bay, Lovett Bay, and Foreman Bay as the sheiks, according to the rules and usages. Wasn't that the lingo and what we just read in the Illinois situation? That's the governing body. The rules and usages of the bylaws of the Morris Science Temple. Now here's the document. This is the governing body. So this is the bylaws that govern. This is the jurisdiction. The state of Illinois didn't have jurisdiction over this because it's a nation state. We're talking about people with a nationality that organize. So these are the bylaws. We're talking about usages and customs. This was what we was going by. We'll read that. We've already read that, but we'll read it again just now that we know it from a different vantage point. All right. So this is why he used Illinois to file that document, because it gave sovereignty and jurisdiction. It was genius. It was actually genius. Okay. So now the trustee would be, in our case, the sheiks, any secretaries or treasurers that we elect. Those would be trustees. The term of office of the trustees of such corporation or society are determined by what? The bylaws of the society. That means whatever the people within that jurisdiction created is going to be for that jurisdiction of that organization. Power is in the people's hands that are competent and got nationalities. Competent and have nationalities. Now you're taking on an international scope. And that's why he was so genius. pretty much he used their stuff. And like Taj always said, there's always a remedy in law. So, even in their color today, colorable code, there's always a remedy. That's why we like I always say, well, in Cali, for example, we got California Penal Code 834C, which is going to take you to the Department of State because it's instructions to have all California municipal officers that their department knows how to deal with foreign nationals pursuant to the Consular Notification and Access Manual. So that's another example of how you took something in a colorable law that takes you to in their world, a federal jurisdiction or international jurisdiction. So it's back to just the studying, because you don't want them calling you a sovereign citizen. You want to use their stuff they familiar with that directs them to our jurisdiction anyway. Remember, we're dealing with minorities, so we got to talk to these people like children, or I don't care if they got badges and all that. Their mind is, they don't know too much. They don't know too much like that as far as law. They just doing what they told. So we got to look at it like that too.
And like a child, I'm saying like a child, they get like flustered too. So if you say something to a child and they only know one thing and they don't have a rebuttal, they don't kick scream, and their kick scream is throwing the badge in your face or the firearm or just using more bodies if that's the case. So, but still, stand tall. Well, like you.
That's fine, man. So the prophet said he brought us everything it takes to save a nation. Well, first of all, what is a nation? And how do the above documents, the Quran and Charter, play a role in saving a nation? Well, we just gave a couple of examples of how he took jurisdictional power and made it with the people. But you must have organization. As you see, it's only sovereignty when you have organization. It doesn't come as a single person like I'm a Moor. I don't have to know. What are you part of a body, right? And ultimately, as we continue to grow, we're gonna need people in certain positions, which is even better. Of that, elected positions to do X, Y, Z. And as you can see, those are, looked at as trustees, in the case of how the prophet set it up. But regardless, it's still the same principle. And today, the Consular Notification and Access Manual, they call our, consular officers, of a we call it a temple, they're gonna call it a consulate, they're gonna call it an embassy. But it's the same principle. You need to be part of organization. It needs to be organization. And as we grow, we need to keep it tight, and then we can invoke all this remedy that's in law, because it's essentially saying our bylaws is the law, not the state of whatever, not the city of whatever. Right? And it's not to say like we're trying to get up out of something, but when you being honorable and working with your people, and like the prophet said, not doing things that allude to slavery, such as not working together, having ego, having bias, staying true to the organizational principles or national principles, national standards. And it's going to continue to grow. And then we can start doing more things. Like I say, economically, that's what the whole point of dues is, or the whole point of having a treasury or something like that, because it's going to come to a point where it's going to be time to acquire land, and you're going to need money to fix stuff up. And that's a whole nother level of how fast we're going to grow. Because once our people see we're on that level, then people going to be like, how can I be down? You don't have to be telling people, you have to be screening people. We got to screen people. But that's what it's about. Because ultimately we need the people, but at the same time, we want to put them through institutions of learning and making sure, they're ready for certain levels of whatever the case may be. But that's a beautiful situation. So, nation. This is a definition from Webster Unabridged Dictionary. Birth, a race, people to be born, a stable, historically developed community of people with a territory, economic life, distinctive culture, and a language in common. The people of a territory united under a single government. So that's Webster's Unabridged Dictionary. Look at the elements in that definition. Economic life. So it's economics. It's pouring into centralization. You have historical culture, right? So we know our illustrious culture. We know what our ancestors did, what they did for humanity, the great empires, etc., that were the great dynasties, clans, houses that were developed under our people, right? We have a distinctive culture. Most of our people in North America speak English in this common time, but we can also learn different languages. The people of a territory. So we have a landmass that our people historically are from. We know what it is. We know it's under our feet. So here's a Black law definition of nation. So now reading the law the political law ramifications of being part of a nation, or definition of a nation. A people or aggregation of men existing in the form of an organized jural society. Usually, now before I move on, wasn't society one of the names of the organizations in the state of Illinois? That's why I said society is just the same thing as body politic or nation state. A clan organized amongst the same nation of people. That popped out to me right off top when I saw that. Jural is dealing with law, jurist. So all the members in the society need to know law as it pertains to their nation or their nationality of people.
Hey, Mafia, I got a question, bro.
Uh-huh.
What is the significance of a Black Laws Dictionary compared to just a regular dictionary? Is it called Black Law Dictionary because it's pertaining to Moors, or what is the significance of the title Black Laws Dictionary, and why is it so hard to find?
Okay, so Blacks is just the last name of the person of the Law Dictionary series. I forgot his first name.
Henry Campbell Black.
Okay, Henry Campbell Blacks. So that's that. I recommend the 1st through the 4th edition. The reason it's hard to find is because there's a lot of truth in it. For example, the word minority, if you look that up, it's going to say it's a designation for people that have the capacity of a minor. They don't know their culture. You could be 40, 30, 50 years old. You're listed as somebody that has the capacity of a minor, of a child. Now, before you read that definition, most people would think minority is just, it's a few number of these people and it's a lot of those people. So a lot of those people are the majority. These little people, handful of people, are the minority. That's how they're promoting it. So that's an example of a law definition versus if you look up minority in like Webster's, it won't go to that. And state, definition of state.
Is there any way I can access those? You said 1 through 4. Is there any way I can access that online, or is it not going to be the real thing?
Yeah, I could email you. I could email you a PDF of the whole dictionary.
Please do.
Yeah,
That would be so wonderful. Thank you.
Yep. Let's see. Okay. So this is the law definition of nation: organized jural society, usually inhabiting a distinct portion of the earth. Right, we have a landmass that designates the nation, speaking the same language, using the same customs, possessing historic continuity. Right, so all the people involved in the nation, in the group, in the organization know their history, and distinguished from other like groups by their racial origin and characteristics, and generally, so in our case, Fez, turban, but not necessarily living under the same government and sovereignty. Now it says generally, that means most of the time, this organization under the same government. But it may be people, that's why the prophet say, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality. It's some people that just declare their nationality, which is cool. It's better than not knowing, but they won't participate in government, or they won't participate in being a member of an organization, or won't to push the missionary work and be an ambassador, or sort of say, to expand the nation state, with aspirations of becoming a empire again, right? Because the whole idea is to be part of a nation state, and then hopefully it's some other more in another area that are doing the same thing, and then there's more in another area doing the same thing, and then we all link up and form a confederation, and then put the government back intact. So that's what I wanted to highlight as far as that part. The key things to the existence of a nation come to both of the above definitions are: one, a race or a people of common origin, inhabiting a territory or portion of the earth, a distinctive and common culture, a common language, historic existence and continuity, unity under a single government. And the above 6 items are key to the existence of the nation to save a nation. So put this in context with Noble Drew Ali brought you everything to save a nation. Put this in context. You must repair or restore any of these items which that nation has lost or was destroyed. Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought us every one of these keys to saving us as a people, a nation. Our Holy Quran brought to us by the Prophet lays out our racial and common origin, right? It gives us the historical origin. Canaanites, Hittites, Moabites, separation of Ham and Cush, the Muslims, original Americans, who they are, as it pertains to the empire. Our illustrious culture is in that holy book. The Holy Quran also describes the metes and bounds of the territories given to our ancestors by our pharaoh in Egypt after the cataclysm. I can't speak right now. Basically, the earthquakes, the great earthquakes of 1500. The Prophet in the Quran, Moorish literature, writings, and oral statements, or hadiths, taught us some of the distinctive and common aspects of Moorish civilization and culture, established English as our modern common language. He reconnected us back to the historic legacy of our Moorish ancestors in Mecca and Morocco in July 20th, 1928 charter. In that charter states the Moorish Science Temple of America deriving its power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad. This is why he said, I have mended the broken wires and have reconnected them with the higher powers. And it's one of the hadiths of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, oral statements. By giving us our nationality of Moorish Americans, or waking us up to the fact that we have a nationality, he united us under one single government. On the national side, he established us as national citizens of the national government of the United States of America, the Moorish Americans. On the divine side, he reestablished our divine government via the divine constitution and laws of the Moorish Science Temple and established a new caliphate. And once again, that's whenever we're referring to divine bylaws and constitution, that's this document right here. Any questions, thoughts? So a divine and national government, two governments well involved in one. The reason the prophet named his movement the Moorish Divine and National Movement is because it is a movement designed to restore us within our own divine government and thence within the national government of the United States of America. By establishing our divine birthrights in government, he also established our rights as Moorish American national citizens. Thus, our movement teaches us how to function in two spheres of activity. The divine sphere, represented by the eye and the pyramid on the back of the Federal Reserve note, and the national sphere, represented by the eagle. At the head of the national government is the president, followed by the vice president. At the head of the divine side is Allah, then the prophet, Nabi, followed by the supreme grand sheikh and chairman of the Moorish Science Temple, which essentially will be Caliph, which is a government position of our people, Muslim culture, Moorish culture. So Noble Jew Ali was essentially Sultan, Caliph. Divine and national relates to the separation of church and state. Thus, the two seals, the reason our side is called divine is because it is headed by Allah, and we have a divine constitution. The national government has a secular or mundane constitution creating republican form of government. Thus, we are a nation within a nation. The Moorish Science Temple of America is a divine nation functioning within a national government structure. The purpose of the Prophet's divine and national movement was to make us a nation within this nation by restoring to us all that was taken from us. This was one of the toughest jobs and greatest feats ever to be attempted. What the Prophet did with no college education shows that he was not guided by the opinions and ideas of men, but that he was in fact divinely guided. To do this, the Prophet had to execute his plan in degrees and stages. And matter of fact, it's a hadith that he said, if I bring you everything, you're gonna go back to sleep. That's one of his hadiths. In the Moorish leader's historical message to America, the Prophet lays out the degrees and stages he took the movement through in order to achieve his aim. We organized as the Moorish Temple of Science in the year 1925 and were legally incorporated as a civic organization under the laws of the state of Illinois, November 29, 1926. The name Moorish Science Temple was changed to the Moorish Science Temple of America, May 1928, in accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of State of Illinois. The national organization with Rotarian complexion as it relates to branch temples. All right, so we have branch temples. And when you think of how the United States operates, they're coming from basically our structure. They got the bureaus, different departments, but like I say, this was a caliphate that was erected with different branches of government, different sheiks that headed different temples in their areas. And that's why I was saying earlier, the brother mentioned, well, they call him Master Farad Muhammad in the Nation of Islam circles, but before there was anything called the Nation of Islam, you had the Moorish Science Temple or the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, and he was one of the sheiks at the Detroit chapter of the Moorish Science Temple. I believe his name was Ford L or something like that. And then they call him the messenger, Elijah Muhammad. They call him the messenger in the Nation of Islam circles, but he was Elijah Poole Bey, a member of the Moorish Science Temple. Notice how the prophet's first step was to set up as a civics organization in 1926. However, this civic organization did not fit the category of a nation or government because it was under the Secretary of State of Illinois. Also, it would have to be a secular, non-divine government, nation, or state since it's under the classification of civics. The only way a government or state can be formed on a secular national side is via the Congress and not by the Secretary of State. Thus, the civic organization formed by the prophet did not just make us yet a nation within a nation. In May of 1928, the name of the civic organization was changed to the Moorish Science Temple of America. This was only a change in name and not to the nature and function of the civic organization. It was still under the Secretary of State of Illinois. Thus, this did not make us a nation within a nation. It was not until the next and final move made a few months later that we became a nation within this nation. Some say that the officials were already anticipating the prophet's next move, but as creative fate would have it, they were powerless to stop him. He said the previous civic organization has been legally changed to the religious corporation. This effectively pulled the organization out from under the Secretary of State of Illinois and filing not under the Secretary of State of Illinois, but instead filing an affidavit in Cook County Recorder's Office of Illinois. This created a form of religious corporation that is not the same as the not-for-profit 501c3 corporation set up for religious purposes, which most churches and religious bodies function under today. In Illinois, you can file under the Religious Corporation Act of 1872 or under the Non-for-Profit Corporation Act, which is under the authority of the Secretary of State of Illinois. Prophet Noble Drew Ali filed the Moorish Science Temple within the RCA, which under the Religious Corporation Act of 1872, in order that the Moorish Science Temple can function as a divine government, a divine nation within this nation. The Religious Corporation Act of 1872 gives religious corporations a wide discretion as to issues of governance and operation. And that's back to the usages and customs that we were talking about. The lingo when we read the Illinois statutes or whatnot governing business organizations, and that's why the Prophet filed it like that. That was back to whatever the people involved say is the governing or bylaws or the structure, how they're gonna move. That's how it's not the state. Power with the people now. In addition to being able to incorporate under the Illinois Not-for-Profit Corporation Act of 1986, they can incorporate under the Religious Incorporation Act. The Religious Incorporation Act of 1872 provides that any church, congregation, or society formed for the purpose of religious worship may become incorporated. In fact, the choice of law is likely to be determined by the legal counsel engaged by the religious organization, right? So we have counsel, we got people that know law, right? That's why I read that in its entirety, because an element of that is in this passage, but we pretty much read that whole Illinois law. A few Illinois attorneys seem to prefer the RCA because it is a very simple and uncomplicated. It gives religious corporations a wide discretion as to the issues of governance and operation. All right, so, and that goes back to the stuff held in trust too, because now we're talking about, like, for example, Caliph Society, same principles. Any Moorish organization, nonprofit civic organization, it's a trust organization. So once we have a property where the organization owns it, or is basically in trust, it's under the same ramifications, the same parameters. Oh. The Moorish Science Temple of America cannot be touched by the Secretary of State for Illinois. Has no power or jurisdiction whatsoever over the Moorish Science Temple. So once again, that's why he did it. That's why he filed it like that. Once again, it was genius. It was a genius move. We're talking about the 1920s. That's heavy. The RCA does not provide for administrative dissolution of a religious corporation, and therefore the leadership need not be concerned with being dissolved by the Secretary of State. So the Secretary of State have no jurisdiction to dissolve anything. The members will do that. Like if the members want to dissolve, they'll dissolve. Right? Due to a failure to file annual reports or other filing requirements. So they're not how it's set up with nation states is not required to file any type of annual reports. It's not necessary. Secretary of State, no jurisdiction. And that was a quote published by Illinois Institute for Continuing Legal Education. Once the initial July 20th, 1928 charter was filed by Prophet Noble Jawali, no subsequent reports are required unless the corporation changes its name or wishes to modify the declarations made in the original affidavit. No agency of the state or local government exercises any discretion over the content or corporate documents, and there are no name restrictions other than the law of protection of names already in use. Right? Self-governing, self-determination, in harmony with the rights of indigenous people, in harmony with the Declaration on Human Rights. All right. The act provides no guidelines for governance of operation of the corporate, thereby giving the organization the greatest latitude for creating its own system of governance. The Secretary of State and or any agency of the state or local government can't exercise any discretion over the content of corporate documents. If the Secretary of State or any state of the local agency had any authority over the Moorish Science Temple of America, that would not be divine. The Moorish Science Temple of America is under the power and authority of Allah and the Quran of Muhammad. So, holy book, principles, character, creed, way of life, peace. How do you maintain peace? Our nationality of people maintain peace through order, government structure. When you go back far enough, they'll say we were into Ma'at and the Kemetic ideologies. Ma'at is just balance. Balance is peace. Peace is Islam. So if it's not from that perspective, and people trying to make it like you got to pray 7 times a day, Prophet Muhammad, if you don't do that, you know, if it's very cookie cutter, stay away from it. If it's not trying to unite humanity, stay away from it. So that's the intention when we say the authority of the Holy Book, talking about principles. And you must know, like I say, you need to know the history of our illustrious culture and then tie it into the Holy Books, because you're going to start seeing, like I say, I read a book called The Jews and Muslims of Spain. I found out that it was Moors from the 800s to the 1100s that not only gave divine clarity on the Quran to the common people, but they had hadiths that was very honored by the community, and they created surahs or chapters that got put in the Quran. So once you know that, it's even deeper for you, you know. Okay. So as seen in July 20th, 1928 Charter, our authority, below is the head of our divine constitution. Notice at the very top center is an eye under which it says Allah. This is to show that the supreme authority within our nation is Allah. This means that what we have is divine government. Notice that the eye on our constitution represents the same eye on the seal of the $1 bill with the eye and the pyramid. The seal with the eye and the pyramid represents divine government that Prophet Noble Jew Ali renewed on July 20th. That's a typo. 1928. This is why this seal was not put on the $1 bill until after the Prophet reactivated divine government, civilization on July 20th, 1928. The seal with the phoenix eagle represents the national government formed under the Constitution of the United States of America. So this is what we're referring to on the top of the bylaws, divine Constitution and bylaws. And here's the color, so you can see it in color. It's the all-seeing eye, and then we already know in the back of the one Federal Reserve note that they got the eye separated from the pyramid. So I just wanted to show what was being expressed right now. Thus, you have a national government made up of many diverse national citizens: Chinese Americans, Mexican Americans, Nigerian Americans, Irish Americans. And once again, I'm using this for like platform and skeleton for bullet points and stuff like that, but like this Irish Americans and all that type of Chinese Americans. The Mexican Americans is cool. Nigerian Americans, that's an oxymoron. You're Irish, you're Irish. There's no Irish Americans unless you're mixed. But to come over here from Ireland, where both your parents are from Ireland, and you come over here and you be like, I'm Irish American, that's not proper. So these are things, like I say, I'm gonna highlight everything. Like I said, I highlighted the stuff I saw in error in the beginning. I'll just continue to do that. And then y'all can weigh it out, weigh the scales for yourself as well. All of these national citizens have a nationality, which is their descent name: Chinese, Mexican, Nigerian, etc. And even the whole Nigerian thing, that's a British tag. I want to highlight that too. And a national name, which is their descent name, joined with the word American, which shows that they are a citizen of the United States of America Republic. See, that's the era that I'm highlighting. An American, for one, well, you're saying you're a Moor, you're saying you're indigenous to America. We know in Arabic, al-Moroccan is the English equivalent to American. So the true American would be Moors. So in actuality, Moorish American will be saying the same thing twice, to be technical. But for someone from Ireland, once again, I'm just elaborating on why I'm saying that. Your mom's Irish, your dad's Irish. You come over here and say, I'm American. Your mom's British, your dad's British. You come over here, I'm American. That's not proper. Unless they paying their allegiance to a Moorish organization and they're saying, oh, my roots come from the Brutish Moors, or the Scots and the Picts and the Danes, and I know they came from America. And in that context, if they go in that far, that's different. That's a whole different ballgame. Now we can nationalize on our ipso jure, naturalize them, and they can be part of our government structure. They're gonna be paying dues. They're gonna be part of the uplifting acts of pushing our political agenda, just like everybody else. They can have blonde hair, blue eyes, but as long as they got allegiance, yeah, we can naturalize them. So I'm just saying things in context. It's a lot of, contextual things I think we should know. In the national government, the head is elected by the people, which, as we just back to the usages and customs, like we got sheiks, treasurers, secretaries. These people will be elected in Moorish organizations. Mufti, security for physical establishments. All these, that's the Republican acts, Republic acts, when people of that organization make the election, right? Distinguished from feudal or they're called democracy, which would be the rule of many by the few, or mobocracy. So the Prophet gave us our nationality of Moorish Americans. The word Moorish is our descent name. The Moorish American is our national name, American. On the national side, we share the national government with many other national citizens of the United States of America. The divine side, the seal with the eye, and the eye of the pyramid represents the divine government and the creed of our ancestors. Since our ancestors were the founders of the first divine creed, designed for the salvation of man on the planet Earth, it is only fitting that the pyramid be used. Egypt was once the capital of our dominions of Amexem, which is the divine name for Africa, which extended from Egypt and Ethiopia across Africa and the Atlantic Ocean to America, to the shores of the Pacific Ocean. The eye, of course, represents our Father God, Allah. Thus, the Moorish Science Temple is, in fact, a divine government, and thus, we have the right to function as a nation within this nation, the same as does the Catholic Church. Right? The Catholic Church has a jurisdiction. And they got a big web. Catholic Church got a big web as far as how they network and move too. In fact, the Catholic Church followed the prophet and filed the same way shortly after the prophet. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. So the Vatican, how it's established, one of the popes made that move after Noble Drew Ali filed that document called All Authority. They filed a similar document for jurisdiction of the Catholic Church the same similar way. Let us see why this act of the prophet established a divine government or caliphate, and why it has the right under the Constitution of the United States to function as a government over which the national government has no jurisdiction and cannot interfere, dealing with separation of church and state. We're talking about religious creed now. Not just one angle. Of course, we know this is jurisdiction and nationality, having a nationality itself, but once you throw the religion and customs and culture into it, now it's a whole nother level. The American system of church and state relations presupposes that there are two realms in civil society, the sacerdotum and the regnum. Each is distinct from and independent of the other. Each is its own center of authority, not one derived from or existing at the sufferance of the other. This division of powers is embodied in the opening phrase in the First Amendment to the United States Constitution and is enforceable by the judiciary to protect churches from government, when the latter exceeds its limits of power. And that was a quote from The American System of Church and State Relations by Colonel S. Back. This is why the back of the $1 bill has two seals. One is for the divine government and the other is for the national government. Corporation. We have elements of corporation. We have corpus, which is dealing with the body or the organism or organization, right? Back to that word body politic that we were talking about earlier. Body politic, organization, government, nation, all synonymous. The question may arise, how can the Moorish Science Temple of America, which is filed as a religious corporation, be a government? This is a valid question. For there are many who think that a religious corporation or religious organization cannot be considered a government. Some may wonder, how is an organization a nation or a government? A nation or government is, in fact, an organization of powers and authority. The same as the word organism, body is an organization of cells and organs. Organization and organism is the same as body. Thus, you also have the word corporation from the word corpus, meaning body. This is also why you have the phrase body politic when referring to a nation or a government. Religious corporation simply means divine government or a divine organization of powers and authority. Divine organization, divine organism, divine body. That's why it's holy books for character instruction, because the people involved in the organization need to be divine or seeking towards that. Let us understand the definition of government, nation, state, religion, and corporation using Black's Law and Webster's dictionaries to further illustrate that religious corporation, known as the Moorish Science Temple of America, is in fact divine government, making us a divine nation within the national government of the United States of America. Definition of government: signifies the instrument, the helm, whereby the ship to which the state was compared was guided on its course by the gubernator or helmsman. When you look up gubernator or helmsman, you're gonna see that's the person like steering the ship or an elected official. But in this context, it's the ship, because the ship will be the body and it's elected officials to steer. But the elected officials were elected by the people, right? And in that view, the government is but the agency of the state. So the government signifies, government is plural. Government is the people involved, right? So the organization or the bylaws that got created for the governance of that organization is the agency of the state or the agency of the people. The people created an agency as representation for the body to do X, Y, Z. And the people elected certain people to do X, Y, Z as ambassadors, representatives, diplomats, sheiks, assistant sheiks, whatever, muftis, treasurer, secretary, whatever the case may be. So a constitution, either written or unwritten, by which the rights and duties of the citizens and public officers are prescribed and denied and defined as a monarchical government, a republican government, the sovereign or supreme power in a state or nation. So whatever the bylaws are, like I said, Khalifa Society got bylaws. We have in the 20s, there's bylaws, the Moorish Science Temple of America. And this back to giving us everything to save a nation. He gave us everything. Because one of the signifiers of a nation is to have a constitution or bylaw. Noble Ali brought that. All right. The whole class or body of office holders or functionaries considered in the aggregate upon who devolves the executive, judicial, legislative, and administrative businesses of the state. So elected officials of the state, of the body. Government, the exercise or authority over an organization, institution, state, district, etc. And we read these two definitions already, but we'll go into state since we read the definition of nation earlier, Black's Law Dictionary and Webster's version. State, a people permanently occupying a fixed territory, bound together by common law, right? Constitution, treaty, customs into one body politic, exercising through the medium of an organized government, independent sovereignty and control over all persons and things within its boundaries. State, of or pertaining to a body politic. Religion, man's relation to divinity, bond uniting man to God, and a virtue whose purpose is to render God worship due him as source of all being and principle of all government of things. So, man, a couple of things that stand out. Because this is a Black's Law definition of religion. So this is hitting a little different. As I was reading that. Relation to the creator. So, you know, to me, what I got out of that was you have to get to know yourself, because the closest thing to Allah is your heart or yourself that you need to, you know, tap into. A bond uniting man to God. And that's back to the meditation and isolation the best as you can to see what's going on with yourself. You know, seeing what tweaks need to be made. What plans do I have, or what plans do you have? That's what I get personally from that. And then all government of things as source of all being and principle of all government things. Like, we're talking about government things that's so vast, you know, like everything has a structure to it, everything has a science behind it, everything has an order, everything can be governed, right? You can govern yourself, you can discipline yourself, right? So these things that I got highlighted to me, and in the context of organization, a religious organization, we're talking about plural people that have that ability or trying to ascend to that level. And now you have a divine movement, you know, religious, divine national movement. Belief in a divine or superhuman powers, or powers to be obeyed and worshipped as the creator and ruler of the universe. Expression of this belief in conduct and ritual. A religious order or state. So look, a religious state. You know, the state is a group of people that are religious, a group of people that are seeking to be disciplined, a group of people that are seeking to be manifestors and creators. So it's interesting how these things pop out. Corporation, an artificial person or legal entity created by or under the authority of the laws of a state. Such entity subsists as a body politic under a special denomination, which is regarded in law as having a personality and existence distinct from that of its several members. So we got the corporation have members, but the corporation can't talk. So like, Walmart can't talk. The Moorish Science Temple can't talk. Khalifa Society can't talk. McDonald's can't talk. But the people involved in making these institutions go can talk on behalf of. Ambassadors can speak on behalf of. You get the point? But the city of Los Angeles can't talk. You can't injure the city of Los Angeles. You can't injure Virginia Beach. You can't injure the city of Dallas. You can't injure the state of Texas. But you can injure the board of directors that created these institutions. And that's where you go to the injured party thing. You have to look at things like that, and it takes you to the proper footing of how to look at even law and due process once you have these concepts down. Corporation, to form into a body, a group of people who get a charter granting them as a body certain legal powers, rights, and privileges and liabilities of an individual, distinct from those of the individuals making up the group. A corporation can buy, sell, inherit property. So that's why I say Khalifa Society, we can own property as an organization. Any body, politic, and group of people that know their nationality can acquire property. Because now we're talking about trust law. It's also a trust organization. So it's a lot of different levels. And once we continue to stay the course economically, and we all are kind of doing our part with waking people up to grow the organization, then the next level will start happening. Because now we'll have, like I said, internal funds for fixer-upper, money for properties to use for storefronts, temples, physical temple meetings, renting that space out for other people that may need to use the space as a Moorish business. So the possibility, it just keeps going. It just keeps going. And now once we start generating a substantial amount of money from Moorish businesses, now we can hire a couple of our members to be security for that establishment. And now that's one person that, that we took away from a foreigner hiring. And now they're doing it for their own people, and that's the political science. That's the levels of the vision that we should always be looking ahead of the game. This is what we're trying to do. But before we get there, we got to get the people involved now have to get competent to have public relations with the public, and it'll take off even more. We gotta be amongst the community with a sound mind to get this information out. And I feel like this is unique because we got members from different parts of North America. So, Alabama, we got Virginia, up north. A couple other members that's not on right now. That's in different areas. And ideally, if we were doing some type of outreach, at least once a week, if you can, to let people know about their nationality and birthrights and their illustrious culture. And we'll continue to expand to take it to bigger levels. Body politic or corporate. A social compact by which the whole people covenants or agrees with each citizen and each citizen with whole people, that all shall be governed by certain laws for the common good. Also a term applied to a municipal corporation, school district, county or city, state or nation, or public association. But it's a Black Law Dictionary. So municipal corporation, that's the city of. the city of whatever, when you pull up their charter, I guarantee you, don't believe me, pull up a charter of whatever. They're going to say the municipal corporation doing business as the city of, some of them might not say doing business, but they're going to be saying from this day forward, it's going to be known as quote unquote the city of. It's going to be one of the other. So if it's a municipal corporation, that means they have board meetings, they got board members. And if you're not on the board, how are you a part of that municipal corporation? Unless you don't know better. And then now you're subject to that municipal corporation's internal laws. Penal code, statutes, ordinances, etc. The Moorish Science Temple of America is filed in Cook County Recorder's Office as a religious corporation. The Prophet Noble Jew Ali realized that he can exercise self-determination under religious freedom if he returned to the practice of our ancestral divine principles and creed. Religious freedom within the Constitution, First Amendment or First Bill of Rights, embraces not only the right to worship God according to the dictates of one's conscience, but also to the right to do or forbear, do any act for conscience sake, the doing or forbearing of which is not amicable to peace, good order, and morals of society. So we measure the circle 7 by the circle 7. So this is actually the back of the $1 bill or the Federal Reserve note. We flip it upside down. We have a circle 7. That's what would appear. And how we know it's a circle 7 because we know how shadows work. It would not be a shadow underneath, only right here, right? So when you flip it upside down, you'll see it's the shadow. All right. So the Friday meetings of the Moorish Science Temple is the ritual of divine government and practice. It follows a prescribed formula laid out by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. The same way Congress and the Senate have their own rituals, government enacted when they convene. Since the ritual of government was handed to us by Allah Himself through His Holy Prophet Noble Jew Ali, it should not be changed or altered in any way. This meeting is not the forum for discussion of all the subjects, topics, and issues of new Moors would like to learn, discuss, and engage in. There will be other forums set up for that. The Sunday school is where the next generation is prepared to carry on the ritual of divine government, and where the current generation refines their understanding of their government in these meetings. We confine and confirm ourselves using the circle 7, the Holy Quran, and the laws of the Prophet. For we measure the circle 7 by the circle 7. The circle 7 is our rule, our guide, and our standard by which we measure and draw. Our divine constitution, our laws, and our meetings are free national standards. Free national standards are enacted by a nation for its own salvation, and they cannot be infringed upon, influenced, or otherwise affected by any other nation or agency outside of that nation. Money doesn't make the man, it's free national standards and power that make a man. And that's a quote from the divine warning that was read at the start of the meeting. The only soul salvation for the salvation of Asiatics. So I think I'll stop right there for this segment. Any questions, any dialogue? This was a good segment about Noble Jew Ali, good background, good reinforcement on government structure, why he filed certain things, why he did it, the importance of being part of a body, of your national peers, and staying consistent and being a part of why it's growing. So I feel like this was a good measure. Any thoughts, statements?
I like it. It shows the importance of the Articles of Confederation of 1774. It's kept reiterating the structural government, sodomy jurisdiction, basically organized by setting up to do for self, not dependent on the outside forcible source. But overall, it kept me thinking about, since that constitution hasn't been changed and everybody created equal, we can do this. And at the end of the day, they were looking for peace through the whole thing. It just meant peace. Clearly we are in balance someplace and we're looking for some kind of balance. And so they came together, one sign, one body. We're going to use these quote unquote statutes within the 1774 Constitution for themselves. But I yield.
Wow. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I'm good, but
And once again, that also highlighted the importance of the bylaws that were instituted, because once again, that's a signifier. It's thorough instructions. And matter of fact, I'm gonna read this and then a chapter of the Quran, and then close out. Now that we have an idea of the space where we're coming from. So when we're reading this divine constitution, you're gonna see our historical continuity. You're gonna see the organization structure in real time of how the citizens in that organization is pledged allegiance to or agreed to. You're gonna see elected officials. All right, so Act 1, the Grand Sheik, whoever doesn't know, that's a elected official. The chairman is elected official. So these elected officials of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of Moorish America. So think of the time when he was alive. But go back to the state of Illinois, usages and customs. And the power is in the hands of the members, right? So when we're saying the power to make a law, now you see why. It's just that. We got the power to make a law and enforce laws under our jurisdiction. With the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of Moorish America. The assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the citizens of Moorish America. Now we know the citizens are the members. Same thing. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on Friday the first man was formed in the flesh, and on Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is our holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. So now that we got the background of today's lesson, all citizens or members must obey the laws of the government, internal laws that were created and agreed upon by the Moors, in our case. You're a part and parcel of said government, right? Because each member plays a part in the whole. How many members are part of the society? How many members are part of the government? How many citizens are part of the government? Whatever that number is, each one of them is part of the government. In our case, we parcel, because of course we're indigenous to the land. We can make land claims and trust. No organization of Moorish American is to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey thereby. Divine constitution, instructions. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and divine creed. So these are the laws of Moorish America. The organizational structure, the mission statement, the missionary work. We're teaching our people, right? That's the missionary work. Their national and divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaveholders in 1779 and lasted into 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America, and then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. Be a part of uplifting fallen humanity. That's back to the missionary work, doing the best you can to wake somebody up, friends, family, and bring them to organizational structure. Bring them to be an addition to the force field of the body politic. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. So now we see the bylaws on a different level than maybe we did before, and how this was a governing document, for a nation of people. It's actually an international document, international ramifications behind the document, its own jurisdiction. Any questions on that? Any thoughts on that? Statements?
No.
So this is the Holy Quran, chapter 30, Circle 7 Quran, chapter 30, holy instructions from the Prophet on dealing with social duties. Social duties. When thou considerest thou wants, when thou beholdest thy imperfections, acknowledge his goodness. Acknowledge the good. O son of humanity, who honored thee with humanity, endowed thee with speech, and placed thee in society to receive and confer reciprocal helps and mutual obligations. So that means you helping, you're contributing, and also it comes back and forth. Everything is mutual, balance. And also, don't be concerned about the imperfections. Be concerned about the good qualities that you have, or that you're aware of, that you have. Protection from injury, thy enjoyments of the comforts and the pleasures of life. All these thou owest to the assistance of others, and couldst not enjoy but in the bands of society. It is thy duty, therefore, to be a friend to mankind, as it is thy interest that man should be friendly to thee. Are you going to have bonds of affection, great dealings with your brothers and sisters? As the rose breath sweetness from its own nature, so the heart of the benevolent man produceth good works. He enjoyeth the ease and tranquillity of his own breast, and rejoiceth in the happiness and prosperity of his neighbor. Right? You're content and happy and at peace by yourself or around other people. And you congratulate people when they're prosperous. You're not envious because things are good things are happening in your brother or sister's life. That's the time to rejoice. He opened not his ear unto slander. The faults and the failings of men give a pain to his ear, right? So we're not listening to slander. You're not slandering people. And when you hear slander, it's like, oh, I don't want to hear that, His desire is to do good, and he researcheth out the occasions thereof. In removing the oppressions of another, he relieveth himself. From the largeness of his mind, he comprehendeth in his wishes the happiness of all men. And from the generosity of his heart, he attempted to prove it, or endeavoreth to prove it. So these character building principles of the Quran, once again, this was a chapter dealing with social duties. And, these are signifiers and measuring sticks to see kind of where you're at on a personal level. When, if you have everybody in your circle, you got good dealings with at the current time, you have peace with everybody. These are good indicators that you're doing good in your social duties. Any thoughts on this chapter? Anything that stood out to anybody in this chapter? This chapter on social duties. Any thoughts, comments, anything that stood out? Anything in general? All right.
Oh, maybe.
You got something?
Oh, no, I was just agreeing.
Okay.
No comments and all that.
Yeah, I'm good over here too, Chief. Just sucking it in. It's been very informational, very inspiring. Like I said, things start coming to me as you speak on certain stuff, man,
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you too, man. Appreciate everybody. And yeah, man. Just kind of marinate on this stuff. I know during the week, the hustle and bustle of life and all that, But just stay steadfast and just try to touch the people, man. Try to touch them, get them to join the force field, and at the same time, you want to make sure you're getting competent as well. So I know it's a well balanced, and it's gonna do what it do. That's gonna make it a divine situation, and at the same time, there's no rush. But just be present in the moment.
No doubt.
I'm gonna close out in prayer, and then we can adjourn. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam.
Morris.
Islam, brother, Islam.
Peace and love.
Have a beautiful week.
Peace and love, peace and love.
Islam. Peace and love, Morris.
Peace, everyone.
Peace and love, Empress. Peace and love, brother.